Good morning, guys. Happy Thursday. Let's go ahead and look at our module for today. So, as you know, we are in the middle of reading the Odyssey Part 2. Yesterday, you were supposed to have read Argus and the Suitors and then answer the one question about Argus in the discussion board. Today, we're going to be looking at the review of Spark Notes for Argus, the Suitors, and Penelope. And that's just because tomorrow we're not going to be watching Penelope. You're going to be reading Penelope today. And basically, it's the first conversation that Penelope and Odysseus have after his return, and she doesn't know who he is. So let's go ahead and just watch this Spark Notes review, and then we'll move on from there. So hang on just a second.
Revenge. That night, the suitors gather in Odysseus' palace for dinner. They saw Telemachus earlier when he went home to see his mother, and they realized he'd made it past the ambush. Now Telemachus is there, and Odysseus, still in disguise, and Eumaeus both show up. Odysseus goes around to the suitors begging for scraps, and he gets into an
Remember, Eumaeus is the sheep herder from outside. And at this point, the only people that know who Odysseus is are these two: Telemachus, who's his son, and Eumaeus, the sheep herder. They're the only people that know.
argument with one named Antinous, who gets angry and throws a chair at him. Odysseus gets into a few more confrontations before the night is over. Once the suitors have gone home for the night, Odysseus tells Telemachus to lock up their weapons and armor, which they always leave at Odysseus' palace. That way, when he takes his revenge, they'll be defenseless. Penelope comes down to speak to the stranger, in hopes that he has some news about Odysseus. He makes up a story about meeting Odysseus when Odysseus stopped at his house on the way to Troy. He says he saw Odysseus not long ago, and he knows Odysseus is on his way home. The next day, the suitor gets angry and throws a chair at him.
All right. So what you're reading today is we just watched that little tiny abbreviation of her asking if she knows any thing about her husband, unknowing that he actually is her husband. She just wants to know if he's alive and if he's ever coming home, basically. Because remember, he's been gone 20 years. Okay. So that one was pretty quick. Let's go ahead and go back to the modules. So don't forget you are reading the Odyssey text in here, and then you'll be clicking part 2, and you're just reading Penelope today. And then if you want to read it with audiobook, you can click right here and go straight to the part where Penelope talks to Odysseus. Okay, and then today you've got your comp questions, and the comp questions are comprehension questions, and they span everything that you've read this week. So it's anything from the Return of Odysseus, Argus, the Suitors, and then Penelope. I know down here it says the challenge and Odysseus' revenge, but there's actually more questions that go to those two that we'll be reading next week. So the questions that you have today, there's only 8. And they have everything to do with what we've read this week. And then tomorrow, you guys will be taking a super short quiz just on what we've looked at this week. So the questions are basically like, what happens when he gets back? What does he look like? Why is he disguised? Um, which of the gods has helped him? Make sure that you know that. No, I think at this point it's just one. Although he does um I'm trying to find a way to say this without. Oh no, he does say it because his son Telemachus asks him, like, how do you like? Telemachus is very doubtful when they're talking at the return of Odysseus. And Odysseus tells him his plan. It says like, excuse me, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna win. And there's over 100 soldiers there. And Telemachus is like, how in the heck do you think we're gonna win this? And his answer is, because Athena and Zeus are behind me. Remember, Zeus is Athena's dad. And even though he's punished him, he now feels that he's paid enough. And so he's going to help Athena because Athena asks, and Athena is there for Odysseus. He's like um, her like pet project, basically. She's the one who's attached to him meaning Odysseus. So Zeus does um, stand behind them basically. But it's Athena that stops everything. So you'll see what I mean by stops everything as we get a little bit further in the second part. But you do need to know which of the gods helps, and who actually advises him about his homecoming. So know that it's one of the two because Zeus doesn't really talk to him. And then we did our discussion board about Argus, but right here, number 5 is like, what does that section reveal about Odysseus? We know that Argus is the dog, but what's the point of this section? And then you're looking at why lines 1190 to 1200 are ironic. So it may say something, but why does it actually mean something else? Or why is it ironic? Okay. And then um, when Penelope talks to Odysseus, what qualities does she reveal about herself through her actions? Um, and then the last one is about what you're reading today, 7 and 8, excuse me. Okay.